Hi.
Hello, I'm really trying to get, hello, Kat. Trying. I'm not doing this as often as you are, so I'm really struggling with the angle.
You look beautiful. Very, I was just seeing all the jewelry. I mean, don't talk to me about those. I have mine tucked here.
I thought I would feature this for you today, considering
I'm really appreciative of it. I too, mine are I'm a little bit ahead of you in
wow.
the baby.
I apologize for not being fully prepared and
They
in
are
their camera position.
They're growing. I'm so excited about jewelry for you. I mean, my
Thank
goodness.
you. Well, I know you're a jewelry fan as well, because I see your, let me try and get this better light situation. Oh my God. I see your BDA babies with your jewelry, and that's a little bit more.
Always.
Always. Just, it's my, more is more.
Yeah, more is more. Everybody always is like, how do they not get tangled? How do you sleep in all of that? I'm like, you just do it. You keep it on. And then, of course, you have to start training the little ones when they're young not to be pulling on anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, very, very important. But I'm so excited. Thank you so much for taking time to do this today. And I remember I was going back in our messages because I was like, it was so long ago when I mean, like a month ago when I had messaged you, because I was like, I had seen a post that you had done about body after baby, and also just, of course, our babies are months apart. So we were pregnant at the same time, which is wild because it feels like it was so long ago. But you were also really open with your whole experience and journey with body image. And we have talked briefly about body image on BDA Baby, but it's such an important part of life for everybody, but especially confusing and challenging in pregnancy and after pregnancy. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that, because of course you look amazing as always, but also got some heat for it. So which is crazy, and I agree with you. But I want to talk a little bit about, just to go back to when you were pregnant and also dealing with having had some body image struggles before that.
Yeah. It's funny because, I'll say a bunch of stuff in this 20, 30 minutes that we're talking, and the people who were so offended by my husband will probably say, hey, she contradicts herself or something. So there'll be something that I say, but I'm just going to be honest and not worry about contradicting myself. Like the journey with, I think, just self-love and people who do struggle with weight, it ebbs and flows, right? It's like you have seasons where there's no problems at all. Like you just feel like a normal person, where you get up and when your body tells you you're hungry, you eat. And then you have days where all you do is think about food. And it's just, for people who are on that journey, that's their sort of life struggle. I can relate to that. As I got older, it got a lot better. And when I was pregnant, it kind of sort of reactivated a little bit. And I did this podcast with Dr. Berlin, who, I don't know if you went and saw him when you were pregnant. He's a chiropractor, but he, is basically all things pregnant women and post-pregnancy. He's a really great. And I did his podcast, and I did talk about how even though your body is going to change, you expect that. And if you're somebody who has a control issue with your body, you have no control. You literally lose all the control. And even though you know that, it happening psychologically, I think it just does something different. Like it played with my mind a little bit. So I struggled a lot in the first trimester because I was so hungry in the first trimester. And some people say, oh, you don't get hungry till second trimester. My whole thing is like, everyone's experiences, it's so different, right?
Yeah.
Like I had so much energy the day before I gave birth to my son. I was like uncomfortable, but I had so much energy. And some people are like, that's when they're most, so it's different for everyone. But my first trimester, I was so hungry, and it became obsessive about like, oh my gosh, I am going to get really fat. I'm going to get so fat. I'm going to be like the girl with the face that comes out to here. And I was just going to hate myself. And I got through the first trimester, and I did gain weight. And I would say the first trimester for me was really hard. That was because I did gain the most weight in my first trimester. It was the opposite. Like I started to slow down, but I think I only ended up gaining, somebody just asked the question, how much weight did you gain with my son? I only ended up gaining like 42, 45 pounds. It wasn't like, it was within the normal range.
Which is, yeah.
Yeah, and I even like want to be careful when we say the word normal, right? Because like
Yeah.
women gain 60 and it shouldn't be like, oh, you gained 60 pounds. I mean, everybody's different. I mean, when I tell people what my thinnest body weight is, they're like, no way. There's no way you weigh that. Like you have to be so much thinner than that. It's like, no, that's how much, when I'm at my absolute thinnest, I'm 135 pounds. And that's like, some people like, what? How can you not weigh 115? It's like, it's the numbers game is, so it's funny how we all obsess over certain things. But so I guess for me, that first trimester, I really was like having to relinquish a lot of control.
Mm.
And it was taking me back to a time like 15 years ago that made me feel like every waking moment I was obsessing instead of just enjoying the process of, I mean, I was very sick, as many women are, but enjoying as much as you possibly can the process of being pregnant. I was obsessing about gaining weight, which is, you know, unfortunate. But I look back and I go, you know what, that was my journey. And I am now able to, you know, if I'm lucky enough, if I can talk my husband into it, have one more baby, but that's a whole other story. I'm sure I will approach it very differently, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think like, you know, first pregnancy is always such a learning experience for us. And it's, you know, we're watching our bodies do something that they've never done before. But they're, of course, made to do it. But it's also, it is such a total mind trip. I mean, I think for most women you understand, of course, yes, you're growing this baby, which means you're also growing you're growing yourself and your body, and you know what's the correct amount of weight to gain, what's the normal amount of weight to gain. And you know, I think majority of women really do in at some point in their pregnancy feel like, you know, am I gaining too much weight? How does this work? Should I be
Right.
eating my body? There's the whole eating food. So people become obsessed with it. And then if you have a history with that, you know, that's always been a question that's come up in BDA babies, just like, how do you have compassion and self-love for yourself and not, because there is a fear of that a lot of women have of like, am I going to have that old behavior of, you
Right.
know, thinking obsessively about my food and not being able to give my baby the nutrition that it needs while growing.
Well, so I can tell you what I did because I felt like I was losing control and suddenly I was going back to this old disordered version of myself. And I was really concerning because I just wanted to enjoy the baby. And I actually called my old psychiatrist that when I was in a program, like in my early 20s, and he came and sat with me and he just said like, what's going on? And I just told him, this is how I feel. I feel like I'm obsessing and it's this and that. And he just said to me, it's totally normal. He
Mm-hmm.
said, yeah. And I was basically like, put me on drugs. I was, are you going to put me on like an antidepressant? Because I wasn't depressed, but I was like, I wanted something to help me
Mm-hmm.
feel like a little bit more in control. Like if there was a version of taking Adderall as a pregnant woman, I wanted it. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like I was in control. And he, God bless him, you know, thank God there's are good doctors out there. He was like, you don't need any drugs. This is normal. And it's for you to feel like triggered by foods again and whatever the journey is you're going through. It's completely normal. Your baby is fine. You're healthy. Like you're totally going to be okay. And it was really wild because I almost just needed that conversation with someone who knew me and knew my history, and
Mm-hmm.
it silenced all the voices in my head, and I was able to kind of enjoy the rest of the pregnancy. And you know, I didn't have to do that by like cutting back on foods or going on any pill, like version of pregnancy antidepressants. I didn't have to do any of that.
Right.
I just wanted to tell me that someone who has struggled before in the past with this pregnancy, with the hormones, it kind of can get reactivated for a lot of women. He said a lot of women who have had issues in the past, it's normal. And my husband was there and it was really sweet. And then I kind of got to enjoy the rest of the pregnancy.
That's amazing. Was there ever like any little rituals or practices that helped you throughout your pregnancy? Because I think, you know, having your first trimester and kind of having that anxiety and having a talk with someone, which is amazing and such a gift to be able to have. But, you know, you still have a second and third trimester left, and then you get even more uncomfortable. And then there's the fourth trimester. Was there ever anything that when you felt like you were maybe getting back to obsessing about food or your body changing that helped you kind of get through it?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I did do in attempt to, before I ended up having this conversation with this wonderful psychiatrist, I had got a name of a dietitian from my gynecologist, and she said she's really great, and I really loved her. She was great. But after that, I kind of just my conversation with this doctor, I actually stopped having weekly sessions with her because I realized it actually wasn't helping me. It was making me more concerned about what I was eating every day, and
Mhm.
like making sure it looks like a healthy diet. It's like the way that I was able to overcome disordered behavior in terms of food was really like not obsessing, like letting my body tell me that what I needed, what my body, like not so much going, it has to be oatmeal in the morning, protein 4 ounces with I mean, that makes me crazy.
Yeah.
So as much as I really loved the dietitian, it was like it was the wrong thing that for me to be doing while being pregnant. And so I stopped needing that as a crutch because it really actually wasn't helping me. So weirdly, I stopped doing something in order to like kind of clear my mind a little bit. And then I really just kept eating whatever I wanted. I just ate whatever I wanted. And yeah, they say that like pregnant women should just eat whatever you want. And there are some health issues that come along with that. You know, some people with diabetes and all that have to be careful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for me, that's kind of what diets have never worked for me ever.
Yeah.
So that's why when I was trying to eat within a certain amount of protein, or, you know, the babies need these certain fats, and yeah, they are important, but I think it's also most important to listen to your own body, because it kind of really, I really do believe that the body tells you what you need.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the things also like I felt myself was as you near the kind of third trimester and you're kind of, you know, gearing up for the birth and becoming a mom
Yeah.
is like, what is my body going to be like after this? Like, is it going to be totally different? Is it, you know, if you're somebody who has been active before pregnancy and during your pregnancy, like you had so much energy, and I also had a lot of energy myself. So, which is such a blessing because so many people don't. But, you know, are you going to be able to continue up that lifestyle? You do hear about so many stories about women who are just like, you know, I felt terrible after, and, you know,
Yeah.
people postpartum depression, all the different things.
Yeah.
And then you're also a mom now. So there's
Well,
that.
go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, yeah, I just wonder, like, you know, was that something that you thought about as you geared up for labor? Because I know that I did. I was kind of like, so 6 weeks later, I'm just going to start working out again. Like, how does that work?
Right. I didn't start working out till probably uh maybe like 4 months post pregnancy. I just didn't, and I'm the same. I have tons of energy. I'm always doing, literally the reason why I didn't have the camera set up is because I was cleaning the patio furniture. Okay. I was like
All after my own art. I love it.
so obsessed that I had to clean the patio furniture, so that I was like, oh my God, what time is it? Yeah, I did think about those things. I was worried, like, oh my gosh, those early mornings, am I going to be exhausted? Like, you know, then I thought about set life and how you wake up really early in the morning to shoot on TV shows and stuff. So there's not there's this similarity there. But I'm trying to think. Going back to like what you just said, kind of sort of is bringing back to the post, right? The post that my husband made was just, well, I'm sure I'm connecting it, but it feels like everybody is so hypersensitive
Uh-huh.
towards everybody else's journey. And it becomes a reflection on their own. I'm going to just get this. I left this quote over there. I'm going to go get it in a second. Their own personal life, like their own things that they're struggling with, something that somebody says becomes offensive to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the post pregnancy journey for me, my mom had said to me, you know, you're probably going to lose a lot of weight, probably more than you ever did before you were pregnant. And she's like, that's what happened to me when I had you. I said she stopped breastfeeding. And I stopped breastfeeding around 7.5 months. I would have kept going longer, but my son is literally a gorilla and he needs more more milk. I'm fitting into size 2 shoes. He's turning 1 next week. It's wild.
Amazing.
Boys, so it's like a wild thing. But so I loved breastfeeding and all those things. Like we talked about, some people really struggle, and I didn't. I had a really beautiful journey. Like, and it's just as valid as someone who had a hard journey. Like it's, and so my whole thing was with this simple, innocent post that my husband gave. Like, we have to celebrate all different types of stories. It can't just be the ones who, you know, gained 30 pounds and didn't lose 30 pounds post-pregnancy. And they're super proud of their bodies, which is great. Bravo to them. Yeah. I think it's great that we're in like a place where we're inclusive and showing all different types of bodies with brands now. I think it's great. But it can't be that we can't celebrate the other way, which is that I didn't, you know, the story for me is that I didn't actually try to lose weight. And actually I was eating more than I ever did. So am I being shamed now because I'm looking too skinny for people?
Yeah. The real thing is, I think, first of all, obviously when a husband or a wife, if you show, or, you know, a partner shows love for their significant other, it's like, let's just celebrate it and stop being so nitpicky about what people say or how they choose to say it. Like, let people live. And then there's also, I think, the angle that I'm sure you relate to, which is like, you've had your history and your struggles with body image. You also grew a human in your body, and your body did something, you know, incredible and grew that home for your son. And then you were able to be grateful for your body and also be mindful of something that you had struggled with previously, and still be able to get to a place where you feel strong and healthy and, you know, look amazing now. So I think it's really, you know, what I really took away from it is obviously that your husband loves you and that you look amazing, but also that, you know, knowing your history and your past, that you were able to have your postpartum journey be one that you're really proud of, which I think is amazing.
And, you know, I was looking at some old photos in my camera roll, like, you know, a month and a half post giving birth to Rennie. And I posted on my story, and I think, you know, Daily Mail, you can literally post a picture of a new Rennie, and, you know, they like post about it. Yeah. But I posted, like, I love my curves because my son gave them to me. And that was like a month and a half after. And I looked at the photo just the other day, and I was like, wow, I was curvier. Like, I was a lot heavier then. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but I loved that in that moment, I was able to really love that version of myself. Yeah. That was a growth for me. That's how I looked at it. So it was sad to me that, I mean, you can't expect people passing by to like know your whole journey, but I just think it's sad that we're in such a place where people are so quick to, I mean, I guess we've always been this way, but it just feels more magnified now that we're in such a place that people are so quick to make, I'm going to get something really quickly. That I'm sure you've maybe seen this meme. 1 second.
She's getting a quote. Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree with you. And I think that having that ability to be able to reflect on your journey and be proud of yourself, and also be so open with things that you've struggled with in your past, I think that that's really what like is what's there to celebrate, and what's there to be like, okay, I'm proud of myself in this way, not for being, you know, for looking a certain way or being really skinny, but just being able to say like, okay, I loved myself a month postpartum, and I love myself almost a year postpartum, and that's amazing.
Yeah, and by the way, my husband loves me then too. Like, it's not like it has to.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, when it's family members being attacked, you always have to defend. You always feel like you know there's a need to defend. But I mean, of course, there's a you when you go through a journey with somebody like that, and you're in a marriage, you love them every which way that they are. I mean, my husband had crazy surgeries when COVID started, and it was like wild. We were in the hospital, and you don't, seeing a loved one in a hospital with tubes up their nose and stuff like that, you're not seeing them in their best state, but you love them no matter what. It's okay, I'm going off on a tangent. This is pick and scratch, but my girlfriend had sent me a meme, like, you've probably seen this, but I just love this. I saw a post. I didn't agree with it. I didn't get offended. I didn't comment. I didn't feel the need to change their mind. I still liked the person. I just kept scrolling and went about my day. I just think it's a nice sentiment. Like, I'm all for people having opinions. I think we should have more opinions, but more respect for people's opinions. And so that's when people are going to say, well, you're contradicting yourself. It's like, no, but it's the way that we're having these conversations. We're shaming one group for having a certain way of thinking, or it's just the shame, I think, is just what's so disheartening.
Yeah.
Right?
And I've even, I think, especially noticed that since becoming a mom, is that there is an extra layer of criticism of, you know, what products you choose to use, how you choose to raise your child, how you choose to be a mom. And then if you choose to showcase certain things on social media or not, there's a level of criticism that you kind of welcome or have to
Right.
kind of embrace. Do you also have that as well?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't really go into my DMs that much, like
Yeah.
on Instagram. I think there's something, what's Gabby Cookin is on. I love her. I think that there is definitely a rabbit hole you can get yourself into. I mean, going and reading comments even. I like reading comments. I like hearing what people have to say. And it doesn't necessarily mean it all has to be positive. I think with the mom stuff, I'm just trying to think if I've shared a lot of mommy type thing. I think you're more active on sharing mommy stuff. So, but that's why, you know, for instance, like, I think we share this. We don't show our son on Instagram.
Right.
And the reason why we don't do that, people have comments and opinions about that. Like, well, why do you cover your baby's face? It's like, the real reason I don't show my baby's face is because I don't want my son to be out. And by the way, I don't think I'm like, you know, so famous that, you know, my son would become like, you know, so, but there is a level of recognition that someone would get. I'm sure there's a word somewhere.
Yeah. Recognition.
Because it's not just your social media page, right? It's because all the outlets then pick up whatever you choose to post. And so I don't want my son to be out as a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, a little kid, and have people coming up and saying, oh, your mommy is, I want him to feel as normal as possible. And that's, I don't know why people don't understand maybe or see that angle. But that's the reason, like, but there's so many opinions about that.
No, there are a lot of opinions about that. And I always, I mean, our choice to do that was also heavily based on how my parents raised us 4 kids, which was very private,
right?
Very normal as possible. And I always reflect on that, especially as an adult now and also as a mom. And I always thank my parents, because I think that it was one of the greatest gifts that they ever gave us, was the ability to be our own people. And, you know, kids will always have the, you know, some level of, oh, the child of, but being able to give them as much privacy as possible is a huge gift. So I'm definitely aligned with you there.
Perfect example. And I won't name the celebrity because I love her. I think she's so cool, but she puts her daughter all over her Instagram. Her daughter is so cute. And it's hard because my kid is very cute as well. And I want to show his face. But I was at a restaurant and the baby was with her nanny or whoever, her caretaker. And I was looking at this kid like obsessively, like, why do I know this kid? And then it dawned on me, oh, this is the daughter of so-and-so. Yeah. And I thought, like, I don't want that for my son.
Yeah.
I don't want that kind of exposure for him. I don't want people to be staring at him and trying to figure out why they recognize him. So that's the reason. But yeah, a lot of opinions about that.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I'm totally on the same page as you there. So I love that. When it comes to people who had submitted questions for you about this specific episode, a lot of them were just about asking for advice about self-love. And I think especially just knowing how open you were with your postpartum experience, and also feeling like you reflected on your pregnancy and were like, next time around, you're going to give yourself more grace. Should you do it again? Is there any advice that you would give people who feel like they might be struggling with self-love, pregnant or not, or postpartum or not, just that you've learned and been able to have be a part of your life?
Sure. It's a big responsibility to answer a question like that. I don't know that there's like a secret recipe for it, right? Like for me, I had to sort of take the steps, walk through it to kind of find the self-love.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's reasonable to say that you don't always have moments of self-love. Like I really struggled in that first trimester. It was difficult for me to find that self-love, self-appreciation. But then I found it later. And then I think that how I found it, like the stories I shared earlier, is something that I'll now carry with me. So that, I mean, I really do think that talking to yourself, and not out like a crazy person on the street, but having self-conversations with, I really feel like having conversations with yourself are important, because I'll often find myself talking through a situation and like you would have with a girlfriend, but to yourself. And I think one of the greatest gifts is having self-awareness. Like I think of myself as someone who's pretty self-aware. And that really helps me correct behaviors of mine that I don't like, be aware of behaviors, be curious of behaviors that I'm not sure why I'm thinking or feeling a certain way. And then it prompts having conversations, whether it's with myself to talk myself off the ledge with something, or with my partner or friends. So I guess I would say getting in the habit of trying to be as self-aware as possible, because sometimes I find that, the self-loathing almost becomes a subconscious, like people are not, they don't really stop it. They just let it continue and continue and continue.
Yeah.
And your mind is super powerful. Like I really, your mind you have so much ability to control your thoughts and how you choose to be positive about things. And so I guess that to answer that would be my best answer, is that I just really have a lot of conversations with myself, and talking through things that feel logical, realistic, and attainable, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I think it also comes with, time and learning more about yourself and doing the work on yourself to be able to be self-aware, because you see so many people out there who are not self-aware at all. So it is a huge gift to be able to give yourself, whether it's through therapy, if it's through having an honest group of friends, a really supportive partner, family, whatever that looks like for you, it's a great piece of advice to be able to kind of focus on the level of self-awareness that we have. And I think, especially one of the things that I loved that you said was also just like, as somebody who had struggled with body image, and then looking at your baby after in your fourth trimester, just being able to be really appreciative of what your body was able to do.
Yeah.
That's what I'm always just like in awe of, is that, our bodies literally grow a human and then they do whatever they're going to do after. But we can feed a baby from them if you choose to breastfeed, or, your bodies are just really incredible. So I think when it comes to the self-love aspect, one of the things that I love that you had said in the past and also have said now is that you really looked at your body as being so appreciative for what your body had given you. And that's something that maybe you didn't expect going into what your fourth trimester would be like.
Yeah, I didn't expect, I think that's probably something I said maybe with Dr. Brilliant's podcast, but I didn't expect to be in such a place of gratitude.
Yeah.
Towards the end of, and after giving birth, like I just felt like that was the most incredible experience I'd ever been through. And my body was fucking amazing. It was so cool.
It's incredible.
It's incredible. All I do on Instagram, I find videos of babies born in the sack. That they're still born in the sack. The amnio.
I know that you and I had this in common.
I was showing this. I said, David, watch this. And she was peeling away the layers of the baby coming out. It was the most peaceful, incredible. This was through a C-section, but It's incredible.
Yeah, no, I went through a whole phase of just being like watching birth and watching videos of it. And I remember Chris saying to me, can we, do you mind just lowering the volume a little bit? I was like, no, it's so amazing.
The background is like, ah!
I'm thrilled to know that you also have that in common with me. So
Yeah.
great. But thank you, I mean, so much for all of this. This is so helpful. And I know this is such a big and important topic that you're really passionate about and being an advocate for, and also just continuing to spread awareness of all things self-love, no matter what your journey is. And I'm really grateful that you took time to do this today.
Well, I'm so glad that we found something we could talk about, and you do such a great job. You are.
Oh, thank you.
What you do. So I'm always excited to pop onto your lives anytime you want to talk.
Oh, thank you so much. It was so good to see you. Have such a good day.
Oh, by the way, last thing, for people who are still watching, do you remember the first time we met?
Yeah, my dad was governor.
That was governor, and my mom came to Sacramento, and we sang at some Christmas thing.
You did. I remember it because I was like, I think I was 13.
Yeah,
girl. Crazy. And I also had noticed, and also noticed even more in this conversation with you, how much you and your mom look exactly alike. Wild. But I remember it because I was up there. It was, the governor always does the Christmas tree lighting, and my mom was like, we have Katharine McPhee coming to the thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so exciting. And I look back on pictures and I'm just like, that was like a truly different lifetime ago.
I know. And I remember we sat next to each other, and I really you, and you were, I felt like now we're so close in age. No,
now we're mommies together. I love it.
Anyway,
thank you so much,
Chris, and congrats on your new one coming, and it's great to
Aw, thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.